Strategy is admired, execution's worshipped, and if your deals are falling through the cracks, you're probably screwing up your execution. This is part 3 of a part 5 series that I'm running around sales call excellence. We already did the frame, already did the behavior of the call. Check out those videos. What I'm going to break down is how to execute the call appropriately. This is things that I teach over 200 software sales reps that are in my academy right now. And it's things that helped me become number 1 in Salesforce, helped me scale multiple sales organization. Comes down to execution. So what I'm going to break down is, number 1 is, well, what is execution? Why? And then most importantly, how do you do it tactically so you can implement this right away? So step 1 is the what. This is the words that you say. This is the questions that you ask. This is how you follow up with those questions. And this is like the meat of the conversation. So the example that I'm going to use is a sales discovery call. And most reps, it's one of the biggest reasons why they lose their deals. It's because their discovery just isn't where it needs to be. You shouldn't be spending all your energy trying to close harder if your win rates aren't where they're at, where you want them to be. Step 1 is looking at your discovery, because usually that's where deals are won and lost. So we want to look at how you actually execute the discovery in this example. Going into the why, self-explanatory. You want to win more deals? You got to have a better conversation with them. If you feel like your discovery calls are not conversations, you have work to do, because great discovery is actually a conversation. I don't even like the word discovery because it easily turns into an interrogation versus a conversation. So what I'm going to talk you through is how to improve that. So let's get into the how. So there's a framework that I like to think about in order of importance for executing the meat of a discovery call. Number 1 is prep. Number 1 is fall framework. Number 3 is align. Number 4 is did you Disney? And then number 5 is did you get clarity? Okay. So step 1 is prep. So when you think about prep for a call, when I'm going into a conversation, if I'm doing discovery, I need to understand a couple things. What's going on with the person? What's going on with the company? What's going on in the industry? Because if I can understand the context around those 3 variables, that's going to help me create a point of view or hypothesis around what's going on. So I'm going to look at my CRM, look at notes there. If there's other people that have touched this account, spoken to this account before, the person before, going to chat with them. I'm going to research their website, look at their social media. All of those things I'm going to look at to really just get a general understanding of what's going on before that meeting. And then when I do that, I'm going to use that research and preparation to come up with a hypothesis, specific questions that I want to make sure I dig into. I want to make sure I'm properly framing the call, leveraging my research. Check that out in a separate video of like how to do that effectively. But that research is going to really help frame the conversation and set up your discovery so it can be as effective as possible. So that's what I'm looking at, those 3 variables. Number 2, the fall framework. So the fall framework is a sales discovery framework that turns your interrogations into conversations. And what it stands for is frame, ask, listen, layer. So what's really important that you do is anytime you're asking a question in discovery, you're framing it with the proper context. So here's a bad sales discovery question. Tell me about your priorities. That's generic. There's no frame there. It's lazy. A framed question has context. A framed question shows them that you did your research. A framed question shows them that you know what you're talking about. So a better example of that same question is, every time I talk to a sales leader in 2024, going into 2025, they're thinking about how they can do more with their reps, increase their productivity, leverage AI while getting less budget towards enablement, because the venture capital market is shrinking up and budgets are tightening up, but leaders got to produce more and more. So they're doubling down on like how they can leverage technology and structure to increase rep productivity. Help me understand, is that one of the top things you're thinking about, or do you have other priorities? All right. So that's an example of a question. If part of my solution was related to rep productivity, that I offer in some way, shape, or form. So because I'm framing the question and then I ask the question, it gives them a much better understanding of where I'm going with it and makes it easier for them to answer. Then we get into the double L, as I like to call it. The first L is listen. I need to actively listen to their answer before I ask the next question. If you're ever with a friend and they're all bummed out and they say, oh man, Justin, I'm having a bad day and my girlfriend just broke up with me, you're not going to say, okay, great. So what do you want to do this weekend? That would be very weird and you wouldn't be a genuine friend. You're going to say, oh man, that's really, I'm sorry to hear that. What happened? Right? That's you actively listening. And you're going to use that actively listening to use their language to ask a follow-up question. So in my instance, when I talk about sales productivity, their response may be, absolutely. I mean, we got to increase our productivity significantly going into next year because I know the board has big projections and I know I'm not going to get a lot more headcount. So I got to figure out how to do that effectively. All right. So this is where I'm actively listening because I'm super present. I want to use their language to ask a layering question. That's the second L. And that layering question in this instance, using their language, is, well, when you say the board's going to ask you to increase significantly, like what are we talking about here? Like how much? So I'm using board, increase significantly, and then I'm asking a follow-up question, how much? I'm not pivoting to a different question. This is where the meat comes out. This is where I can really seek to understand what's going on in their environment so I could have a productive conversation with them. That's the fall. Hey, real quick, if you work in software sales and you would like me or someone on my team to listen to your discovery calls, give you feedback, and help you improve your execution, there should be a link to my bio or in this video. Click book a call on my team. We'll learn more about your situation, to see if we can help you, and just like we've helped hundreds of other software sales reps. All right, so back into it. So we ask the fall framework to improve how we ask our questions. Then we want to make sure we're aligning to them. So I'm sure you know, we got to understand pain. No pain, no sale. But when we're asking our pain and digging into what the problem is, how big of a problem that it is, what are they trying to do to solve it? These are things we're trying to understand. Are we also making sure we're aligning our solution to potentially help them? It's really important to understand that. Because if you're not helping them understand how your solution could potentially help them, and I'm going to explain how in a sec, they're going to leave that conversation feeling like they gave everything to you and they got nothing in return, and it's not going to be a great experience. So you have to make sure that there's a part of the conversation that's specifically dedicated to helping them understand how you could potentially help solve their problems in this example, in this instance. So that's how we want to make sure we align. And the way we do that is I say, when I'm asking people, I said, did you Disney? Now, when I say Disney, what I ultimately mean is storytelling. If you've ever watched a Disney movie, they all follow the same storytelling example. It's called the hero's journey. And the way you want to position yourself is the mentor or the guide to help them in their journey. And this goes into how you tell stories. So if you're positioning yourself as your company as the savior, you're not storytelling effectively. You have to position them as the savior, them as the hero, and you're the guide. But you have to use case studies. Have a couple case studies memorized backwards and forwards. Make sure those case studies are relevant to them. Similar problems, similar goals, similar solution, right? And then you effectively tell those stories as a part of how you're aligning how you can help them. It's really important to call this out because if you're not using customer stories, you're increasing the risk in your deal. Because when anyone's buying anything, they want to make the least risky decision as possible, as you can imagine, right? So the way you de-risk the decision for them is to help them understand that you're not alone. We've helped people just like you many, many times. Here's examples. Here's what they're dealing with. Here's what we were able to help them do. And here's the outcome that they achieved. Does that sound like what you're looking for? And that's how you leverage the Disney to align with them, right? And then the last piece, we want to get clarity. When we're on the meeting, we need to make sure we're taking time to ensure that they're clear on what we do for them, or what we could potentially do. We want to make sure that we are clear on their challenges and problems. And we want to make sure that we take time to make sure, did we properly cover the ground that we're hoping to? Did we achieve the purpose of the call? Are we at the outcome that we aligned in the beginning when we framed the call? So another video to break that down. Did we achieve that? Are we aligned? Do you have questions? Is there any concerns about where we're at? And you want to make sure you build that into the agenda and time to do that, because one of the biggest reasons why deals die is there isn't a dedicated time making sure that they feel good about what was covered on this call. So you want to make sure you prep, fall, align, Disney, and get clarity with them. And if you're new to my channel, hit subscribe, because I put videos out like this every week. This is part 3 of a part 5 series.